Who is the most overrated person in history? Waldo. Why should anyone even care to search for him? He's done nothing. The fact that he's always hiding is probably because he's done something wrong, plus that fluffer only has one shirt. Douglas MacArthur was obsessed with his legacy while being a far less capable leader than many of the other overlooked commanders in the Pacific Theater. He spent thousands of lives in battles on islands that had little strategic significance, declared the battle for the Philippines over while intense fighting raged on, and was disliked by many serving under him. Go listen to, read Max Hastings' Retribution, The Battle for Japan, for a great deep dive into the Pacific War. Added, over. Henry Viollet's Be Honest, all he did was strong-arm the church so he could marry another woman, the fat greedy sod. Ioannis Metaxas, he was the leader of Greece from 1936 to 1941, most famous for not surrendering to fascist Italy during WW II. The only problem is that Metaxas was a fascist dictator himself. Lajos Fluffing Kossuth. He's a Hungarian history figure who lived 1802 to 1894, but most notably he declared himself as governor-president of the Kingdom of Hungary during the 1848–49 revolution. For those of you who are not really familiar with Hungarian history, the short variant is, we were fluffed by everyone and never had independence since the early 1300s, this time we had beef with the Habsburgs. We really wanted independence, have Hungarian as the official language, and the liberation of the serfdom. Sounds cool. Before the revolution, the two most outstanding political figures were Kossuth and Count István Széchenyi. He's actually a really cool dude, and I think he deserved the title, the greatest Hungarian. They both wanted the same things, but Kossuth wanted everything ASAP, while Széchenyi understood that change takes time, so of course they didn't like each other. With some other factors, Kossuth ended up bullying Széchenyi out of politics. I give Kossuth the credit for being smart and charismatic, who could motivate people with his speeches. So one time he basically started a rally amongst common folk, because other politicians told him that discrowning the king was a bad effing idea, but because of the massive amount of people surrounding them, they couldn't really say no, so they did discrown the king. During the revolution we sucked ass, not getting into details, we had more downs than ups. Also some minorities revolted against Kossuth, who would not give them any rights. Enter one of my favorite historical figure, Artur Görgey. He was the greatest general in this whole scene. And finally he has his own exhibition. He actually won against some Austrian army corps. Kossuth hated him most likely because he feared his power and did everything to remove him from charge. But the Austrian king, Ferdinand V, asked the Russian emperor, Nicholas I, for help. So, Hungary is a small country with a small population, Russia on the other hand, you see where this is going. Görgey wanted to go west and destroy the Austrian army, before the Russians arrive. Otherwise we're fluffed. Sounds great. Not for Kossuth, he wanted to wait until the two armies merge in the east because if they lose, he can emigrate to Turkey. The latter happened, and Kossuth, as his loss-fluffing move, stepped back from being governor-president and appointed Görgey. A few days later, on August 13, it was clear that Hungary had lost. In a hopeless situation, Görgey signed a surrender at Vilagos. Kossuth emigrated to Turkey, but tried to control everything from afar. Writing the Cassandra letter, that if we make peace with the Austrians Hungary will no longer exist, which was bullgarbage. Our industry and agriculture fluffing blossomed after, as a really great university professor once said. Kossuth threw a big rock up in the air and pushed Görgey under it. Basically he threw him under the bus. What baffles me about this absolutely garbage of a person, that he has the biggest mausoleum in all of Hungary. It's made out of gold, marble and all that jazz. You know what Görgey has? A.F.ing Black Iron Cross. God, I hate him so much. By the way, he died in Italy, and he still has a huge following because he was so great that every fluffing town has to have at least on road named after him. Edit. Thank you for the silver, kind stranger. Edit 2. Change the swear words. Edit 3. Thank you for all the response I got. I didn't expect it to blow up. Thank you for the gold, platinum, everything. TLDR, Lajos Kossuth is a charismatic politician, becomes governor-president of Hungary during a revolution. His plan fluffs the whole nation, leaves everyone to deal with what he caused by running away to Turkey, acted like a know-it-all until he died, now has a huge following as the nation's hero, but he's basically an butt. Coco Chanel. I have recently only just found out she was apparently Nazi agent who went under the code name Westminster. She spent most of WW2 in Paris in the Ritz sleeping with Nazi officers and had direct contact to Himmler and Goebbels. She even insisted all Jewish directors of her brand be removed. Edit. I can't spell. Guy Fawkes, he was a minor cog in a conspiracy that he didn't even know all that much about. He was tasked with a dead simple objective, and he failed. He gave up the names of all the co-conspirators that he knew about, but most of them operated on a much higher level than this chump, so they got off Moseley scot-free. He had one job and he fluffed up three, basically. He doesn't deserve the pages that his story is written on in history books. I'm gonna have to go with Hitler. His paintings really weren't that great. Not the most overrated, but first guy that comes to mind is America's only Paul Revere. Don't get me wrong, yes, he was a good guy and he played a role in our nation's fate that night. But did you know he wasn't the only man on the midnight ride? A lot of the work and credit goes to his two peers that night. Revere only gets the credit because his name rhymed nicely in the poem written about him. I only know this because my grandma pointed out that we're related to one of the other two men, William Dawes. I'm too lazy to look up the other guy's name or how much of a role each of the three played in the event, but my basic memory tells me Revere wasn't the most critical player of the three. In fact, and I could be wrong, he got caught before he finished his role, which led the real heroism to one of the other two. So yeah, thanks Paul Revere, but let's give credit to the other guys who warned us of the British that night. We can't all have knee-sounding names, though, so your name is remembered while the other two have been forgotten by most, other than historians and nerds. Ada, I didn't expect this to be seen or for it to get all this attention. Not replying to everyone, but there's some good history facts in here and I'm learning some things about him and others. Us history, especially with regards to war, isn't my top interest. I'm liking the conversation and seeing some healthy debate. Sorry if I sounded undereducated on this topic as I don't know it in great detail. This is Reddit, this is my opinion, and that was mostly detail from what I learned in K-12 school, but I'm done with my bachelor's now and K-12 was a long time ago. Also, this may be my top comment ever, so thank you everyone for the karma, but mostly the interesting facts and conversation here. I just had 100+ notifications in my inbox yesterday and thought I marked them all as read, so I was really confused seeing all of this. 2 comments in 2 days hitting 6K plus karma. I just had a crummy night at the laundry mat, so thank you for making that a little bit better. Remember, sort by controversial for the real answers. Edit, since a lot of people are commenting this, it wasn't just Keanu, Obama, Trump, and Jesus when I originally made the comment, but they were there. Edit. Coincidentally, I think those are also the answer to who do you think will make an appearance in the next Bill and Ted movie? Erwin Schrödinger. He is both overrated and underrated simultaneously. Let's be real here. Who isn't overrated? My sister. I do stuff too, Mom. Pablo Escobar, he was a murderer, you shouldn't like him. Tutankhamun, or King Tut as he is sometimes referred, he was a boy pharaoh that only reached the age of maybe 18, born from incest and suffered scoliosis, a bad foot, walked with a cane, and contracted malaria, and likely died from an infection from a broken leg. Also when he came to power married his sister and had 2 miscarriages. This poor boy had lots of power, but was sick all his life and likely his advisors made all decisions for him and eventually succeeded him. Also had a very short reign that ended with Egypt at war. They would lose under his successor. Pythagoras, he didn't make a squared plus b squared equals c squared at his own. One of the students did, he made it better and proved it. Edit, grammar. Garfield, we all hate Mondays, you ain't special. Jack the Ripper, more overhyped not overrated, but he only killed 5 people. It's not like he's the original Dexter. Woodrow Wilson. This whole thread can be summarized as surprise ending, nobody is perfect. John Lennon, don't hurt me, I'm a big Beatles fan, but somebody had to say it. Edit, not the most overrated in history but still somewhat overrated. Henry Ford. In business, engineering, and manufacturing, he's revered like a god. Professors like to gloss over his overwhelming anti-Semitism. Ford wrote and published a wildly anti-Semitic newspaper, which were spread around the Ford Motors facilities. Those papers were republished in Germany and became incredibly popular with the Third Reich. Heinrich Himmler described Ford as one of our most valuable, important, and witty fighters. Hitler praised Ford in Mein Kampf and referred to Ford as an inspiration. The admiration went both ways, because Ford was a Nazi sympathizer to the highest degree, hosting Hitler's representatives in his home and hobnobbing with Nazi officers. On his 75th birthday, he was awarded the Grand Cross of the German Eagle, the highest medal Nazi Germany could bestow on an American. But all anyone cares about are his effing assembly lines, which he didn't even invent. The assembly line idea actually came from Ransom E. Olds. Amelia Earhart. There were plenty of trailblazing and better women pilots, yet Amelia is a household name because she attempted something she died while trying.